A difficult budget for the 2011-2012 fiscal year is in the books, and General Assembly members are back in their districts dealing with constituent questions about the spending plan. State Representative Will Tallman from the 193rd Legislative District was one of the members who voted in favor of this budget, and is here to talk about that vote. Representative, the two most contentious issues with regard to the budget, many feel, were education and spending. Let's talk education first, and the money that was spent on K through 12.
Yeah, part of my concern, I had talked with all of our local school districts in the 193rd District, and they were expecting to have cuts, somewhat significant. But then when the governor's budget had come out, the cuts were way more than what the school districts had anticipated. We cut accountability block grants out, and we cut the funding for the cyber schools, the reimbursement, and then the basic ed part of the formula had been reduced significantly also. And so the school districts, they understood basic ed was going to be reduced. They probably understood there was going to be a reduction in accountability block grants. They didn't understand that there would be a complete elimination, and then the elimination of the reimbursements for charter schools. So that was way over what they were expecting. An interesting side issue is that school districts are required to have their budget done by June 30, which means they're typically voting for it prior to June 30. So they don't actually know what numbers they're getting. I think that should be looked at some point in time. But so it was my intent that we try to get as much money as we could into those school districts to allow them to continue to function. I think we accomplished that.
Stimulus money is not here this year. That wasn't understood. For the last 2 years it was, this year it is not. Stimulus money, good thing or a bad thing, looking back on how it was used?
I believe the stimulus money was a bad thing. It just was totally, across the nation, stimulus money was a bad thing. And school districts, we had told them in Adams and York counties, we had told them for 2 years, this money is one-time money. Do not plan for it to happen again. And it was unfortunate, but I think the school districts did plan on that money being there. And when that money went away, of course, that was part of the reason that education took the cut that it did also.
Let's talk spending. The line was held on spending this year, spending less money than the previous year for, I think, the third time in the last 40 years. Why was it so hard to hold the line?
Well, there is all kinds of demands from various agencies and groups. I found it interesting because, as we're leading up into the budget debate, we get all kinds of visitors here in Harrisburg and asking for money. And I found it interesting at the last couple weeks of that debate that when somebody would come and ask, oh, my program needs an additional $10 million, then I would ask them, well, which program do you wish to cut to get that $10 million? Because we do not have it as a state. And so that made some people stop and think, but others, they don't care what other program got cut. They just wanted their $10 million. So, but it was very important to the citizens of this Commonwealth that we actually retracted the spending levels that we were at under Governor Rendell. And that was sound economic, sound fiscal policy to do that.
Finally, there is a surplus, there isn't a surplus. Explain.
Well, there actually is not a surplus. It's like having $10 in your checkbook and knowing that this Friday you're going to have to write a check for $50. And that money is already committed. We have the M-Care fund that we feel that we're going to have to pay. That was $850 million. That's going to have to be paid back most likely this fall. So there is no surplus money. We have bills due. We are, as a state, over $50 billion in debt. $500 million of our budget goes to paying interest payments. And we need to reduce the amount of debt. And of course, we have that big bill of $850 million due.
If you have questions on this or any other legislative topic, Representative Tallman's contact information will be on the screen in a few seconds. I'm Scott Little. Thanks for spending 5 minutes with State Representative Will Tallman.